Thank you all very much for coming. I am excited and a little bit nervous about this session. But yeah, so this is a session on RSE perspectives on generative AI in the workplace. So if you're in the wrong place, please give up your chair. We're going to be here for 90 minutes. So the goals for this session are to have a constructive discussion as a community about AI in our workplace, to listen and learn from each other. We are quite keen to gather the experiences and perspectives that are shared today and use that as the evidence base for for want of a better word, position statement, but I mean, basically just a summary of what was discussed, and we'll see how that goes. Yeah, and the last sort of aim is to identify resources that could help RSEs to navigate this new terrain and plan future activities. So there'll be a part 2 after lunch where we're actually going to start writing, so start trying to synthesize all of this material that we hope to gather in the next 90 minutes and turn it into something kind of coherent. So please come to that if you can. This is the overview of the session. We are 9 minutes late, 8 minutes maybe. We're going to be using HackMD, which we will share with you in just a moment. So as you can see, we've tried to leave quite a lot of room for breakout sessions, so small group discussions. I think the idea is for us to get out of the way as much as possible and leave as much time for discussion as possible. So this should be quite a compressed introduction. If we have to eat into any of these time slots because we're running over, I think it will be the group's sharing of the summaries. Group sharing. When we share what we discuss with each other is where we might have to cut down if we're going over. So there are a lot of breakout groups. We might ask for very quick summaries because all of it's going to be written in this HackMD document, which I hope doesn't crash. So it's all going to be there anyway. Okay, so as I said, we're going to try and get out of the way as much as possible, but I think it is important that you at least know who we are and why we're doing this, for trust and transparency. So I'm Joe. I'm an RSE at the Centre for Ecology and Hydrology. I'm basically interested in AI and programming, primarily in the context of education and teaching, but I'm no longer involved in that field. I'm an RSE, so I've transplanted into this session. And I'll hand over to Sandra.
Yeah, I'm Sandra Gesing. I'm the Executive Director of the US Research Software Engineer Association, and with 50% also senior researcher at the San Diego Supercomputer Center. And I'm interested in really, so I say shortly, my opinion, AI won't go away. So I think it would be good to be active to see what we can do to deal with it. So that is my interest. And we got, thankfully, to Schmidt Sciences funding to find this out. And we have a series of BOF. And this event we partnered with Joe and James. I'll give it to James.
I'm still James Hetherington. You also we do not yesterday, but I help run the Grand Challenge for the Data Empowered Societies at University College London, as well as running our Advanced Research Computing Centre, our RSE organisation. Like others, I think the quality of our discussions around these technologies needs to go to a deeper and richer level of understanding of what are the risks and what are the opportunities, rather than staying shallow. And I'm hoping we can get into some of that conversation today.
Yeah, hi everyone, my name's Alvon Smith. I work at Schmidt Sciences these days. Full confession, I used to work at GitHub on Copilot, so if you want to talk to me about that, good or bad, happy to hear, and happy to share my experiences there as well. I am certainly responsible for funding a little bit of the attention around this topic. I personally am certain that generative AI is here to stay. I think there's opportunities here. I think there's risks. I am pretty convicted that this community should steer the change, and I'm looking for ideas and identifying things that candidly could be funded, opportunities to help this transition, which I think is happening, make it a better one. And so I'm looking forward to learning from you all today and over this discussion. And we're doing this a few times at a few different meetings over the rest of the year. So thanks.
Great. So this is a Mentimeter. We start off with a Mentimeter. So you can use the QR code or go to menti.com and put in the number, or you go to the URL, which is probably the most inconvenient one from the three options if you have to type that all. So if you can go there, that would be great. I give it another moment before I switch on this computer.com. How's it to say? Awesome. Okay. Very good, very good. So I hope everyone got it. And
I'm still there officially.
so I'm opening the mentimeter.com now and I'm presenting. So when you hear AI and research software engineering, what's your gut reaction? Excited, curious but cautious, neutral, frustrated, annoyed, or overhyped? I like the distribution here. It's so excited versus overhyped. So we have also opinions there. I'm very proud of people who can stay neutral. Honestly, that is So we have some neutral there. Curious but cautious. I think it's fantastic also, and I understand very well the frustrated and annoyed ones. So it's everywhere. So I hope online you also can. Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. So let's go to the next slide. One word that describes how you feel about AI, and we mean Gen AI, in your work.
Yeah, when we say AI today, we mean generative AI, sorry, just to be clear.
Yeah.
I think being more specific, I think we mean using LLMs to assist us when we're writing computer programs.
I would actually not even go that specific, because it could be things other than just writing code. It could be doing other things than code. But
Right, yes, yeah.
generative AI in the software development lifestyle. Yes.
Oh, I really love that the helpful gets a lot of voices. Hallucinations, yes. Unreliable, definitely. Unhelpful, okay. Over-reliant, irritated, future, productive, interesting, opportunity, overhyped. Yes, I think we have a lot of different main words here for, we are going misunderstood, potential.
Helpful and unreliable.
Yeah.
That's true. Right.
Unreliable and helpful, yes. Risk, incoherent, opportunity, exciting, improved, augmentation, unethical training, not enough access, absolutely.
You need to make a video from this.
Yeah.
Watching that develop.
This is really cool. Robert, suspicious, unproven. It's a fool, frustrating, enhanced, dangerous.
Somebody's written understood it. That's really good. Who would have put that?
Very cool. So it's still taking input. And thank you for everyone filling this out. This is really exciting. So, speed read. Yes, absolutely. And nowadays when I have to write a summary, and let's do that first. I do. Graceful. Yeah. Boring. Okay. People find it boring. Okay. Confusing. Assistance. Empowering. So I think with this, we are going to the next slide.
What does Verschlimmbessern mean? Someone written Verschlimmbessern. I don't know what that is.
Well, I don't know what that is.
Where do you see that?
You mean
That is when you say when you would like to make something better, It's of course a German word. You
Yeah.
see that directly. But if you want to make it better, but you make it worse. And German of course we have a word for that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let me go to the next one. How much is AI already impacting your day-to-day work? And I'm sorry, this is you know, you can give like a scale. So from constantly, if you say constantly and strongly agree, you go to the right. Otherwise, when you say, oh no, I'm never affected. You know, you strongly disagree to constantly, then you go
Hang
to
on,
the left.
confusing. So if I think it's constantly, I move the slider as far away from constantly as possible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I could.
so you strongly agree that it constantly impacts your work.
Go to 5.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I should have changed that.
It's a nice satisfying uniform distribution.
Yes. So let's see where we end up, maybe in the middle, that everyone is filling it out. It looks like that it goes to the middle for us, you know, for the average between us all. Yeah. So that means it is, you know, affecting us in average, but not constantly. So I would guess, just to ask in the room, who did vote for the strongly disagree at the beginning? It never affects you. Cool, I like that. There are two. So we expected that a little bit, being in the middle here. Yeah. Very cool.
I feel like this question is asking two different dimensions at the same time. So if the word impacting is implying how impactful it is, right? Concern is about like how much portion of your time is being impacted. So for example, it can be very impactful, but it's only on one day of the week.
That is true. That is true. So in that regard, that needed to be also a time. Yeah, you're right. I thought like about it this constantly, even if it's one day at work only, but it impacts you, you know, really much at that day, it would be still a constant for me. But maybe, you know, that is not clear.
I would argue kind of the opposite way, because it's in everything, right? So if I want to write something, I'm going to have to tell it to bugger off because I want to write it myself. So then there's a delay, and then we teach, and then we go like, oh my god, so we've got to deal with the mess of that and do something else. So because some of our work is so broad, actually is impacting everything a lot.
Yeah.
And you have to think a lot and discuss a lot and decide what you're going to do about it a lot. So actually that then becomes a 4 or 5 because it's not a meaningful impact like that, but we have to do and think and say something about it. And that's an awful lot. And then that's kind of not the effort. The effort we want to put into teaching isn't in teaching because we have to deal with the fallout of this technology doing things we don't want and shift that discussion. So there's a lot of energy wasted in the negative side of this that's having a massive impact. That is a constant tip feed.
Yeah.
So it really depends on that side of it. So for some things, yeah, it is kind of just an annoying thing all the time that you have to deal with.
Yeah, I share the same thing where the question goes to humans directly. Because even I force myself not to use it because of many reasons. That being said, when I run a Google search, the first page is AI generated crap. So it is affected my ability to reach information, whether I want it or not, for instance.
So I don't want to hassle anyone, but this is exactly what we wanted to come out in the breakout discussions. I think we probably, in the interest of time, need to no, but I think we should move on. Yeah.
Okay. What is the biggest opportunity or risk you see from AI in research software? The biggest one. I know we can see probably quite a few, but we talk about the biggest one. It's killing, security issues, democratizing software development, untrustworthy results, garbage in, garbage out, productivity. Researchers will develop systems themselves using vibe coding, mistakes making us jobs redundant, risk RSE work being devalued, shorter development time, misleading results, trash everywhere, misinformation, short-circuiting the learning process, upskilling. Researchers stop learning how to code to the extent that they can't evaluate Gen AI output. Researchers will use to write their own code and not need RSEs. It uses average coding standard, wrong conclusions, columns and junior job opportunities, risk of harm, injury, or death. It doesn't take away our job, but it is taking away our expertise and authority. Fully structured, unreadable code. Cannot read.
I'm not being you now.
This is fantastic.
Very good.
Oh, this is great. Elimination of entry-level codes, non-coders thinking they can code. Oh yeah, I see that. Well,
I deliberately wrote one negative thing and one positive thing, just to make sure I was populating both sides of the.
yeah,
But I'm curious. I don't know if we can get data online.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. But it's not so much the sentiment analysis of the response as a whole. It's like I think there's I think that I'm even thinking whether people are only responses one, only doing response, so people are actually doing it.
Okay, to
So polarization.
go to the next now. This is what would help you most in navigating AI at work. Clearer policies and guidance, training, upskilling, time to experiment safely, examples of good use cases, knowing when not to use AI. Is there one you would?
You may choose multiple responses.
What do you need? Do you need it all? Because this is one you can click.
I think it's perfect. Maybe experiment.
You should be able to click them all if you want them all.
You gotta look.
People want everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can capture an other response to that? Yeah.
Sorry, no, not in this question. We are sure there are other things you need. Absolutely. And that is something we will discuss.
Session this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. You can get your other in the breakout session.
And a whole other workshop on training on Friday as well.
Oh, really?
What role should RSE play with AI? Gatekeepers, integrators, power users, community educators, other. Here you get your other. Okay. And the people who put in others, that is also nice to know them in the discussion. What do you think? What is the role of RSE? The community. And I like community educators. I mean, I think we probably need all the roles, kind of. And community educators is definitely most people.
So I think this really put there as a multiple because I think we have a role to play in all of them. Certainly the integrators bit, but just having to put one option wasn't helpful on this one.
That is true.
Maybe a ranking thing would have been useful.
Yep. So we can do the ranking the next time. Absolutely.
On the previous one, having a question with most where you can pick more than one probably doesn't really work so well.
Yeah. Okay. So if AI is here to stay, what is one thing we as a community should do about it? So the one thing you think directly about, what can we do about it? Embrace it? Panic? Resist? Become the experts? Challenge assumptions? Educate the public what it is not? Educate yourself? Work together to build guidelines? Learn, 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 learn. Educate others about benefits and drawbacks. Embrace. Learn to work with it safely. Become one with the machine. Get used to it. Embrace it. Warn about risks. Encourage people to be open about whether they're using it. Power what? Guide how it develops. Teach. Become the experts. Sources. Education. Teach it. Use it safely. Understand exactly how they work, share usage in RSE context, educate others. So with that having said, this slide will stay open. If you have more thoughts in between in your discussions, you can keep this last slide open until the end of the workshop, or maybe even longer.
Yeah.
And you can continue to add content here, but I think now is the time to go with the next program.
You changed.
Yes.
All right. Is that good enough? Right. So yeah, there is a HackMD. Please try and join it if you can. I hope most of you have used it before. It's pretty self-explanatory. It is a markdown document. Probably everything you need is in there in terms of instructions of how to go into edit mode.
Should show it also here.
What's that?
In the browser. Can we share that also here?
As in, like, open it?
Yes.
Yeah. I want to leave this up for a while to make sure everyone's
Awesome.
able to get it. Yeah. So the gist of the rest of this session is we have two breakout sessions. The idea is that the first one is pretty much unstructured, just in your groups talk about anything that you want to get off your chest, ask any questions that you'd like to ask your colleagues. There are some prompts if you need a bit of help, but I somehow doubt people will. And the second session, we're trying to have each breakout group focused on one specific topic so we can cover a broad range of topics all together. So basically, since we're running a little bit behind, I think we'll try and move as quickly as possible into the first breakout session. One thing I would say is if you wouldn't mind adding your name, institution, and optionally contact address to the subsection of this document where it says attendees. It's really nice so people can know who they're talking to. In particular, the email. If you leave us your email, we will use that to get in touch with you on maximum 3 occasions with the next steps after this session. You don't have to leave your email because you can also follow what we're doing on a GitHub repository as well. So it's a convenient. If you want to get an email, then please leave that. Sorry. The original plan was to go around all the groups and have a bit of feedback. I think because there are so many groups and we started a bit late, so we might just say if anyone has something they're burning to share with the whole group. I think we have allocated 9 minutes for this, but I think we probably can't go to every group individually. If no one says anything, we can move straight on to the next breakout discussion. So it's kind of up to you how we play the next 10 minutes. But yeah, so maybe if you could just put your hand up, or otherwise grab our attention if you do want to share something with the whole group. And if not, we'll continue with the next part.
Maybe we give the online group a chance to say something.
Yes, that's a good idea.
We moved straight to taking notes on a separate HackMD, and I believe they're being copied across. So that has all the details. The summary was quite varied. So lots of use for code snippets, auto completion, generic small tasks. Use for AI was found really useful when moving to a new domain with where people didn't have expertise, just to get broad guidance, and also to polish text. Tried out for a few things as well. Mix of use of different models, Copilot, DeepSeek, tools integrated in IDEs. On the opportunities of those, lots of people found speed up for those generic tasks. There was also a value in sorting through huge amounts of unstructured data in a way that wouldn't be feasible by hand. And there was comment that it was useful for permitting those with less coding experience to code independently. But the risks being that non-technical users had misconceptions about what it was able to do, and that it made lots of mistakes, some of which were convincing mistakes that needed additional checking and were hard to find. There was also an interesting point that I saw that there's a risk that all this focus on generative AI means that other types of machine learning and AI will get neglected in this massive hype cycle, and if there's any bust, and that as people use Gen AI more, they might lose the ability, lose other abilities, have weaker creativity, have weaker ability to solve basic tasks. Relates to that massive variation in policy. So I think looking at the HackMD is easiest for the details of that, including some which completely ban DeepSeek, some areas where that's not the case. I hope that's a fair summary. Please, online greet button if not.
All right, thank you, Matthew. Anyone from here? Does anyone have anything they really want to share? Yeah.
Yeah, so we were talking about the fact that using Gen AI for people that don't really understand the underlying thing that they're doing is quite dangerous, and that's not a problem that we're going to solve as RSEs, but it's a societal problem that needs to be solved for all of Gen AI, not just for its use in coding. We're deferring to everybody else to solve that for us.
But that also fits into the when not to use and when to use, right? The risk, maybe not.
When to use is when you don't know what you're doing, but that's when you're most likely to use.
Maybe, yeah.
Sure.
One of the points that came up in our group was that AI has got quite a lot of value as an accelerator, and that value becomes more and more enticing if you're in a job that involves, say, using offshore projects. I'm in a project that is basically one single long project that I've done for the entire stint of my Bristol RSE, and so I don't feel much need for it. But if you're flitting around between our first projects loft where the code's actually different, your context is different, then having that accelerator suddenly becomes a lot more enticing.
Absolutely.
One thing that came up as an opportunity was like the ability for it to do debugging, help with debugging, but as a risk also that it might lead to more debugging. So about the same thing. And also on risk, I think there's a risk of like polluting people's abilities to be able to do things. There's studies that show that even after you stopping using AI, you might not be where you were before, and there's also risk of that, like model collapse, of like the outputs of the AI going into the training the next stuff, and you can see that with like the yellowed images of Gen AI images, not of them are now permanently yellow.
Yeah. Good point.
Can I mention sort of high frequency oscillation between miracle and disaster? So sometimes it's you wow, this is totally like save loads of time, and then you excurse into a different mode where it's like, no, do that. Yes, I've done that. Isn't it nice? No. And working out which of those modes you're in and when to stop flogging your dead horse is an important part of user practice. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone experienced that.
Sure. So one of the things before, but on the matter of the question of essentially whether we would advocate our organization, any organization that have data that they do not want anyone to copy paste or specificity, essentially we would recommend that they install a local AI so that we can still use AI, but with the safety.
That's a great point. Okay. First, yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering, could we do something that, as RSEs, could we do more measuring the supposed productivity gains that we get from AI? Because I think everybody feels like they move faster. But I remember reading a study just recently where they said a lot of developers said, I definitely move faster with AI. I'm more productive, I'm better. When they actually analyzed their productivity, they realized that most of them were slightly less.
And I wanted to say it's often also more dependent on the experience level. The more experienced you are, the less gain you have often, I've read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we might just have time for
Less,
one more.
yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, just I think it was a slightly novel one that came up here was that so we know that the ORM in particular have random elements to them. So if there are ways of making good use of that, that can be effective. And one of them is, for example, so we know people use it to generate test data. But particularly in case we're generating test data in places where the actual data might be sensitive. So if you want to generate something that looks like an actual nurse's notes on clinical record or something. There's not actually
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
All right. So yeah, we'll move swiftly on to the second breakout session. So this one's a little bit different in that we are going to try and have each breakout group focus on a specific topic and try and drill down into the details of that topic. The plan was, so there are some preloaded topics if you scroll down the HackMD to breakout session 2. The idea was I mean, this is just if you can't think of anything on the spot, but please feel free to add new ideas for topics, just edit the document, and let's hope it doesn't crash again. The idea was for us all to spend 5 minutes basically voting with X's. Many of you will have done this before for the topic you want to discuss. I think for the sake of HackMD not crashing, we will just do a hands up today. So I think if we spend 5 minutes, look at the topics that are there, decide if that is everything, decide if the thing you want to talk about is already there, and if not, consider adding a new suggestion. In 5 minutes time, we'll stop and we'll read out the topics and put our hands up and basically move into the physical breakout groups at that point. Does that make sense? Are there any questions at this point?
Oh, very good. We're back. We are back, yes. And we have again a working document in HackMD also for this session. But in this HackMD are many links for each group, one to a Google Doc if you want to use that, or one to another HackMD. So per group is one HackMD docs there. So if you go there, you find per group this. And I would like to remind the ones who, have you copied all your notes from this morning into a HackMD? Maybe you can link to, or in a Google Doc web, we can link to from the original document from this morning. Or if you don't have the URL anymore, we have it still. Otherwise, you can also link in here and say it's from this morning.
There is a link to the session 1 HackMD in the session 2 HackMD. Those who weren't here this morning, we basically had more people than we were expecting, and HackMD just died. So everyone was working, we hope, on local text editors, and ideally you would then copy what you wrote into the group one, because we're going to try and use it in this session. So if you have notes sitting on your computer that aren't in the shared HackMD, please try again to paste them in to the shared one, because we want to work with them now.
That would be great. Okay.
All right.
And we can give a short summary, by the way, from the Mentimeter. Yes.
Could you move the Zoom windows and see what's GG?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Oh,
Actually, maybe just quickly, who, if anyone was not here this morning, hands up. Okay, that's fine. The gist of it is that we discussed AI in the RSE workplace and tried to make notes, and now we're going to try and synthesize these notes into one coherent piece of writing. So, yeah, that's all you need to know. Do I do the link?
Yeah. Do we have the PackMD open on this computer? Why is it going? Oh, and okay. Oh.
Already there, actually.
Okay.
That's not helping.
You just okay. So there's the Mentimeter, and there we have it open, and here we exported the Mentimeter so everyone can have a look at it. So you see most of the participants were curious or cautious about AI and research software engineering. And then we had this nice word cloud. What do you feel about AI in your work? And you see the big ones, unreliable, helpful, misunderstood, vibe coding. So we have then also really almost in the middle. Are you constantly impacted in your day-to-day work, or almost not? So people feel like in the middle about this. And so that we cannot repeat all of this, but I have a ChatGPT summary from our survey this morning. And let me just bring it up for a moment. And I share that also later. So ChatGPT says about this, what are the biggest opportunities or risks you see from AI in research software? Opportunities: faster prototyping, productivity, democratizing software development, novel interfaces, and risks: poor code quality, misleading results, job de-skilling, lot of junior opportunity security, and environmental costs. So that is a summary of about 80 comments, which is a good summary. And then we had again a question: what would help you most in navigating AI at work? And you see also the nice distribution here over all the topics with clearer policies and guidance, training, upskilling, time to experiment safely, examples of good use cases, and knowing when not to use AI. Then you see here, what role should RSE play with AI? A lot of community educators, and not so much gatekeeping. So that was also a great result. If AI is here to stay, what's one thing we as a community should do about it? And again, 80 comments here. We cannot go through all of them. So this was ChatGPT says calls to embrace AI, become experts, educate others. Some resistance with resist or panic. Strong desire for agency, ethics, and practical frameworks. Good. So that was, we did this morning. With that having said, let's go back here. So could everyone open the working document? What we do now is go through the topic this morning, and each table can decide which topic you want to write something about, and you have your own document. Each table has its count. We have 10 documents. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 groups. Okay, that works. That works.
Plus online, so 10.
And online. Oh, sorry. So we have 10 groups. So online also. So I would say, again, also with discussions, you have again someone to lead at the table and one to take notes. With 2 people, or your roles will be very easy to distribute. So, and pick the topic you like. Should we show the topics again?
Yeah, so maybe maybe just to kind of put this all in context with the rest of the session. So we've got, again, 2 kind of breakout sessions. There's half an hour scheduled for both of them. And after each breakout session, there's 15 minutes for a whole group discussion. The idea that we had is to try and basically let the people here decide what they want to prioritize, you know, and start writing about. But with that in mind, to structure it to begin with, we thought the easiest thing to do would be for each group to select 1 or 2 of the topics from the first part. So if you go to the part 1 HackMD, you'll find all of these topics with all the notes underneath them, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And basically just like go through, figure out what are the common threads, try and pull everything together. You know, again, the intention is really obviously to have a nice discussion, but we want to produce something that we can put out there that serves a purpose for RSEs and to share with people that we work with, and basically kind of like, you know, summarize what we as a community think about this. The synthesis doesn't necessarily mean pull out all the things we agree on. If we disagree about things, those are worth identifying as well. So first session, I think, will be driven by what was discussed in the first, like this morning. So go into that old document and find some interesting topics. The second session, I think we'll just hand over to you because, you know, you also, like, you'll figure out what's important. If there's anything missing, raise it in that whole group discussion in the middle. We'll discuss it and, you know, maybe form different breakout groups in the second session. But we do actually have plenty of time. You know, we've got until 2:45. That is an hour of discussions and an hour of breakout discussions and half an hour of full group discussion. So take your time with it and just, yeah, make sure that you say what you need to say. And yeah, I think we should just kind of get started, really. So.
I wanted to say, and when you see the notes, and you can also say, I have totally other thoughts about that. This is what I want to write about that topic. That is also fine. So we are not restricting you, but it would be nice to go back to the topics we had this morning to write something down.
Good.
Paragraph style, that would be nice.
Any questions, comments before we start?
So should we try and think about this like through the lens of an RSE? I know obviously they can, like Gen AI can be used to write code, but it can also be used to write like anything and produce images and things like that. Are they sort of within our remit, or are we trying to keep it sort of focused on?
So definitely, it's definitely the RSE role.
Definitely the RSE role. You would like that.
It can go broader than just. So we were discussing this earlier. It can go broader than purely code generation. So, for example, architecture generation or writing user stories, all those kind of things could be in code. But I think primarily it's about code, but all the bits of software engineering programs around that also visible. Is that?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
I think so too.
Okay. We ended up starting on sensitive use cases. So are we, and this is, you know, regulated domains or maybe medical data, regulated tech, and we sort of landed on this idea that we don't feel like there's particularly good awareness of how all these platforms work, the commitments that the companies do or do not make to how they use the data, that kind of thing. And so we did a little bit of looking around, looking at universities and their AI policies, which are, you know, okay, but we think they might need extending or making more relevant to RSE work. So that kind of thing. We also got onto some ideas about what we should do. So that comes down to maybe there could be a curated list of recommended tools for different scenarios and
be maintained, obviously. We also then started talking about training needs and this idea, and I think this came out this morning about, I think we're all looking for good worked examples of when it works well, when these technologies are sort of appropriate use when they don't work well, but that's also a maintenance challenge, but sourcing those scenarios from RSEs could be really valuable. Maybe a software carpentry lesson on generative AI, apparently there's something in progress. And that sort of gets this idea of being a respected authority, but not a gatekeeper, to that training idea. We then took on a little bit of the how do we anticipate the nature of RSE work would change, and we picked initially the 1 to 3 year time frame. And we also landed on this idea, Seven and crew, about some RSEs we expect some work will go away for RSEs, and that will be because the PIs think they don't need one, and that seems like a risk. And then I just wrote down that maybe we'll spend more time reviewing code written by others that we didn't want to do that work. So anyway, AI slot, whatever. So yeah, we're still going really. We've got lots to talk about.
Great, thank you. The next group here. Summary.
Well, I guess I can do a summary. So we were discussing a bit more about best practices and come up with some ideas on some potential best practices. One is like, okay, like you need to read your code, like you need to own and understand your code. You cannot just like it's tempting to just copy paste without understanding, but then this can be a problem. And connected to this also kind of like make sure that you do small prompts, and also kind of like don't over try to get online to solve the problem. You can try it, do maybe a follow-up prompt, but if it doesn't work, maybe it's time to open Stack Overflow or use your brain or talk to a friend or do something else. But at the same time, also we found some like areas like, we mentioned regex, which is like, yeah, clearly go for it. That's a good solution. Yeah, that's kind of the discussion we get here.
Yeah, also adding to that, we discussed about the use of LLMs, like setting up like temperature to avoid hallucination, also understanding good prompt engineering. So we expect and so start small to build what we want for those use cases.
Thank you.
Who's reporting in your group?
I think so we started thinking about the value proposition of RSE, and I think like the headline that actually Gen AI doesn't change anything. Like the SSI, better software, better research, right? So it doesn't matter where that software has come from. You're still going to need RSEs, like experts in software, to understand and maintain that code. Especially if the RSEs are going to be responsible for maintaining that code, then we're going to be the ones that need to understand it, and therefore perhaps it's up to like that RSE about whether they use Gen AI or not. RSE is a spectrum between researchers who do some code and coders who do some research, right? So there's going to be not one size fits all. What were the other things about like the ability to kind of come up with the technical specification to generate the code that you want? That's the kind of domain of RSEs as well, right? Like that's essentially code that if you can write the technical specification at that level, that is the code, really. I think those are the main things. And then we had some disagreements about the ability of AI to kind of to do that, to take the specs and generate sufficient code. I think those are the main things we discussed.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything we're focusing mainly on tips and tricks, or like how we become recommending to use AI as an RSA. Now that it's just mentioned there, again, the one big thing we decided to say was like keep it away from any kind of specifications you need to write. Like you as an RSE should be writing those first. Like don't let it touch those. Don't just do that because it'll do something weird. That's our core job. That's like what we do. Once you're beyond that, I think our general discussion can be summarized as like if you're careful, it's probably quite useful in a lot of situations.
we touched on briefly that like it's not quite at the stage we think to replace sort of traditional like tools. It's quite good. Like it can avoid you having to go to Stack Overflow, click the link in the second comment, then click the link in the third comment on that one to find the answer you want. It's very good at that, but like it doesn't replace that whole like you still need to know that it hasn't given you the answer you looked for on the first page to then go to the second page to go to the third page. Other than that, we discussed a few other things like you can actually it needs to have a way to attach like a prompt file. So you can, when you've got those specifications, you can give it to the AI in a machine readable way to save a bit of time, which is quite useful. But yeah, otherwise, don't let it design everything, and then just be careful when you do use it to like speed up tasks, like just check what comes out, and generally you're probably going to be okay. Please don't compliment me.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we had quite a lot of questions, so I'm not going to be able to give it their reading, I'm afraid. But I guess we start to talk about to what extent there is an expectation for RSE to use these tools, and kind of the question of whether it's really just about code output that's important rather than what we're using. And is it just like using an ID, for example, a program language? We have to be without already. People have different opinions about it. We just have to do the same thing with whether you're using different AI tools to use code. But we also sort of touched on the fact that someone may have objections to using it over things like perhaps ecological consequences or copyright issues. Should they be taken into account in an environment where that might affect their code, the quality or the speed at which they produce code? And I think we kind of came to a sort of agreement that an important aspect of that is being upfront at the start of the project about what the expectations are around whether or not you're using generative AI to produce code or part of the process. And I think we also touched on this question of value proposition, which I think 7 maybe over there talked about, and to what extent RSEs are actually, what is the value proposition of RSEs, and how will that change in the future as a consequence of AI? That's something that I think we can come to an answer on. And something people are very obviously I did.
Awesome. So, yeah.
Thank you very much for actually sticking to time. But we thought it would be useful to maybe discuss, put this out to you if you think there's anything that we're missing in the current set of topics and prompts and everything. So I guess there's 2 questions. One is, if you can think of anything that really just isn't on the agenda that should be, now's a good time to raise it. And then the second part is how are we going to do the second set of breakout sessions? So again, we kind of wanted to leave this to you guys. If you want to stay put and just pick a different subject to talk about, that's fine. If you think we should do what we did in the last session and organize a bit more deliberately around one table, one topic, we can do that as well. I don't know if we should do a vote on that at some point, but maybe first things first, are we missing anything? And then we'll get onto that.
I don't think I've heard, but we're close towards the end. I haven't heard copyrights.
Yeah.
But I actually think that there are courts litigating the copyright implications of these models existing and generating source code that appears to be copyrighted. So that seems to sort of fall into sort of ethical use thing. And the other thing I'm wondering, and this is sort of emergent in my own work as well, is just responsible disclosure, sort of just for sort of how you use AI as a group of people and how you sort of share your use with colleagues. And it all sort of fits into the sort of ethicsy responsible use mindset that I have. I don't know if that's worth going deep on, but that feels like there's more to be said there that we haven't covered today.
Just on that copyright and licensing.
Yeah.
One of the things I don't think we've really talked much about is
AI technologies as a component in projects. So for example, like physics informed like surrogate models in some sort of simulation, or maybe agentic AI in some sort of, capacity for like, I don't know, research retrieval or something like that.
Okay.
I feel like we haven't really talked about AI in terms of user support either.
That's true. Yeah.
Automatically responding to issues.
Yes, Neil?
Yeah, I mean, Dan has mentioned one part of it. Yeah, the whole use of AI and all of the other things that RSEs might do or interact with, user support being one, but also perhaps helping to maintain and administer some of the infrastructure that we're using as well.
Good, yeah.
Also in the field of healthcare, there is software as medical device and how LLMs are creating medical devices and all the regulatory and I guess clinical hurdle that we need to navigate using these tools. That's something also that work to discuss.
Yeah.
I had a go just to try and message at the same time. I'll come back to you when I'm
Okay.
So probably maybe we're talking a bit more on reproducibility, formalisms. Is the prompt the thing you record? Is the code the thing that you record? What kind of stuff happens around principles of scientific reproducibility? And I'd also like to throw in the version of the future where the models continue to grow and get better, and programming becomes less of a thing. And I don't know whether that's the version that the model might saturate, but if it carries on growing, then there's going to be people who are good at and think about using data and computers and software to do science in a generally actuated way, right? And are we RSEs, specifically as programmers, or are we sort of a melange of people using data, computers, and software to do science? And how does that identity story that we tell what we are change through this? I don't know the answer to that, but
yeah, it's also a great topic.
One thing I'd like to say is perhaps we didn't talk about education, because most people in this room probably, well, I hope they have lived before AI and after AI, but future RSEs will live in a time where like they'll always be together with this. And I think it's worth having a discussion on how they'll be supposed to train RSEs in the time of LLMs.
Take it.
Finally remembered. One of the things communities, online communities such as Stack Overflow, Reddit, MATLAB Answers, and some from MathWorks, are how a lot of these LLMs have been trained. And the very existence of the LLMs is destroying them. There's the traffic of things like Stack Overflow has just vanished. And we've seen similar things at MATLAB Answers. And so what I'm thinking is that, okay, you've got this current raft of LLMs. Where's the training data going to come from the future? For the future, because everybody's asking the LLMs. There's no online communities to train them. Will software development of languages just stop? Online communities and how LLMs are effectively destroying the very things that feed them.
Okay. Neil?
Yep. Neil?
I can't remember if this came up, so apologies if it has. So I wonder if there should be some discussion as well around how this will intersect with cybersecurity, and particularly things like supply chain attacks, and what this means for RSEs. I know it's part of the more general thing of RSE should be the experts who are helping to ensure that code is robust and reliable. But I wonder whether LLMs here are going in a trend towards making this harder to do when it comes to cybersecurity.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Oh, sorry. Now is the slightly challenging part. I mean, really, we've got until I don't remember. We've got almost 45 minutes until the end of the session. How do you want to do this? Do you want to get up and walk around and form groups? Do you want to stay put and just pick different topics? Could I have a show of hands for let's get up and form dedicated groups per topic, and then afterwards a show of hands for just stay put. So get up and walk around.
Walking around is good.
Okay. That is less than half though, I think. So, or maybe you can all get up and walk around. Indeed, so if we all stay where we are, and basically we can do the same thing again, pick some nice topics and just develop them. The things that were just discussed in this kind of feedback session, and crucially the things that were missing, have been written down in that Hack&Be document. So feel free to.
Yeah. So I heard it's a lot of, enthusiastic discussion. So maybe we have some time for reporting back. So maybe the most important topics. And we start here.
Yeah.
Yes, with you.
Okay, so we started talking about the role that programming forums in the internet played, and how we move on from that. We got on to discussions of so imagine a world where mostly the AIs are very good at things, but there are still some things that humans can do better than. But we've lost some of the mechanisms that enable humans to get to the point where they're good enough to do that on their computer. What do we need to do as a profession to ensure that we're continuing to create people who are in? Am I saying this right?
Yeah. Very exponential conversation.
Yeah.
There's a big analogy to gym that you, in order to get strong to lift the heavy weights, you need to lift the small weight. So we need to be able to continue training to do the smaller things, to do repetitive stuff, do more things, so that they have the capabilities to get into that.
Yeah. And then there was a discussion of if a lot of the things that we would have been doing ourselves, kind of, we know that if we not do it well, we know that the work would be duplicative, because that's what we're told that we're thinking of. Hand wave. Is that good because we're not wasting our time doing work that somebody else has already done before? That seems good from a utilitarian perspective, because we're not wasting time. But on the other hand, it wasn't useful from a industrial productivity point of view, but it was useful for us to have done it, right? Who in humanity benefits from Mike lifting weights was the example, and the answer was Mike, right? So that was sort of what got us down that line.
Okay, great. So maybe we would go in between now to the online group. Who wants to report back? Dan or someone online?
I dropped off. There's like a delay. It was just horrible.
Okay.
I can quickly report back on something. So yeah. Can you hear me okay?
We hear you now. Yes.
Yeah, so we continued our discussion from earlier. One really important thing that came up when we were discussing the human accountability for code that's generated by AI tools was the fact that we shouldn't be making this separate from the frameworks that we should already have in place as RSEs to do this with any form of tooling. So rather than kind of having an AI-specific set of policies or guidance, it should be within the generic thing of ensuring that, for instance, you're declaring and documenting all of the tools that you're using and what they were used for to your team members and to the users of your software, that you are testing against preferably human written tests that reflect research requirements and so on. So I think that was a really big thing to ensure that we don't just create another hoop that RSEs have to go through. And then the other thing that we were starting to discuss was around what it really meant for things like data and model provenance and disclosure, and what do RSEs actually have any kind of ability to improve, because we were talking about the different places where data was being used and where it could be provided, and we were just starting to try and come up with some recommendations for what RSEs should do about disclosure and ethics around data use for training.
Great, thank you. Now we come to this group.
Yeah. So I think that we're talking more about like training education, and I think we have the kind of two areas we're discussing. One is the limitations of the models, and how it's important to choose this limitation, especially if at the beginning you try to use like simple code and then the models are great, but then in real life the model is you're going to something much more niche, which model is not going to be good. So maybe an idea would be nice if we can, as a community, build like a repo of like example where the model fails, of like simple example which are teachable, to get a feeling of like what are the limitations of the model. And the second part is also the interactions with the trainer, because in a way that they need to trust the trainer. You cannot just say don't use AI, but like really kind of like understand that you as the teacher like understand the potential of the tools and try to channel it in a constructive way. Yeah, I think those were two main topics we were discussing. And I'm missing anything.
So what did you discuss?
Yeah. So we discussed the role of RSEs in GenAI in healthcare. To have like discussion about the regulatory pathway and FDA and how RSEs are using models to like suggest and validate or architecture framework. And also that also depends on the type of medical device, on the risk that could be more stronger scrutiny of validating these frameworks. We also talk about data stewardship. There should be some approved tools. Maybe the enterprise already have done that, but maybe at university or academia is not really clear who can support you on these models to be used on like training on data sets. We also discuss about the use of synthetic data set to validate or healthcare pipeline to accelerate this innovation. And of course, the pipelines, they may be not ready. Well, they are ready as a RSE framework, but not clinically. So there's not too much understanding of that. And finally, we discuss the use of open source models that may be biased based on the data where they've been trained. And there's no really understanding of which data has been used to train those models. Therefore, we use models that asking questions that may create bias outputs as well, especially in the clinical settings. We also talk about the relationship with trusted research environments and how this could be something that we want to implement in terms of which models we use. And also when we need to use these models is like pre-training or post-training and who provides these models. So yes, lots of topics around that. All of the discussions are in the group 7 called healthcare, if you are interested. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Who is reporting out here?
James has already stolen most of what I was going to say. So things. But yes, we were again talking about sort of like where we think AI might be going, like high level summary again, I think what James said, and we think it looks like it's going to provide a lot of benefits to like coding programming in general, but like we generally with like a bit of caution to avoid sort of like de-skilling or like taking the emphasis off skills that okay, skills might not become, might no longer be essential but desirable, like being able to synthesize the important information from 10 papers. You can get the AI to do that now, but you don't want to be in a position where no one in the world can do that. And then this model goes down and suddenly all society is doomed. I have written down here to avoid labour, which is the other issue we thought of. So yeah, so like in the same way that like we all learned arithmetic and then we got calculators to avoid having to do arithmetic, AI kind of in the same way, like let's still teach the fundamentals, but then maybe AI will be the tool that, okay, it can then trivialize those fundamentals to make sure that we can do more advanced things. But if it were to collapse, we've not lost the ability to do that.
Great.
Anyone else want to?
Thank Okay, so in all we discussed with visibility data. So one of the first question that we asked for in fact was what is the role of source code? So after a while we planned that when we want to be able to produce source code, so what do we need for that? And after some more discussion, we also identified that many of the issues that we are seeing with reproducibility when generating code with AI are similar to issues in reproducibility that we already have. So, and we discussed this, and yeah, someone added a new thing with regenerable. So, and then we identified just shortly before the end another very important point that results that are acquired during interaction with AI without generating code as a middle step, that there is the real reproducibility crisis. Great, thank you. Last but not least, who's reporting us?
You want to go? You go.
Right, so we discussing responsible use, ethical AI, copyright, all the things, and we've got a bit of overlap with other things that you've said, particularly the online group of things. So we're talking about things like disclosure of AI usage in your work. Is that important? And what should the policy be on disclosure of AI usage? With the note that no policy is the worst case scenario. Whether that would be policies on, the different models that would be used, or if there'd be more than one model used in the organisation, what policies would cover that, if at all. Came back to the idea that I think has been said a few times today around does the automatic AI summaries of things like code, documents, emails, and so on lead to information loss, and how do we need to manage that? How do we need to think about that? Some in particular sort of things we got a bit deeper into was that if we're talking about disclosure, not only could we disclose that AI have been used in, for example, code generation, but perhaps what the prompt was, the model name is, the version, and so on and so on. So we're talking a bit in that sense about provenance, and I guess these things aren't completely determinate. We want to be able to have a position where someone can reproduce or replicate, perhaps for whatever reason, whether the original work is lost or whether it's sort of sanity checking that what's been asked makes sense. In terms of things like attribution, is there any way we can apply things like transitive credit to this sort of thing? So if someone's done a huge heap of work which is effectively then trained, which then produces something else, how do we and then a couple of here where we talked about we did get into very deeply about the KPIs of RSE, if indeed there are any, and coming back to the point that Simon made this morning around showing the incentive, showing the outcome, and do any of these KPIs potentially cause or introduce unethical use of any of these tools. And yeah, again, as I'm sure have, we've sort of linked back to that classic IDM slide. A computer can never be held accountable, therefore a computer must never make a management decision. And I would just remove.
Thank you.
Oh, we're out of time, so that's kind of perfect. I guess all that's left is for us to say thanks. If you scroll to the bottom of the Hack and Be, you'll see instructions for how to stay in touch with us, or potentially we'll try and turn these GitHub discussions into something nice, bootstrap onto this, so get involved if you like. The other thing is, if you're really keen to be involved in bringing all of this together and writing something, maybe just come and chat with us after this session, or get in touch with us otherwise. Yeah, thank you very much. It was fun.
Thank you.